News that the Celtics coach Ime Udoka is likely to be suspended by the team, perhaps for as long as this entire season. Udoka is facing punishment for his part in what is being called a consensual, intimate relationship with a female staffer on the Celtics. Pablo, what is your reaction to this?
My first reaction is that this is one of the messiest rollouts of a story, Tony, that I can recall. Just ever in general. The NBA has always been this tiny little gossipy cafeteria, and everybody is gossiping about a story that could involve plausibly an enormous range of things, from the puritanical to the just serious. And so I have questions. Mostly, I have questions about why it is that this requires a year-long suspension. That seems serious to me, right? So, does the woman involved, allegedly, does she feel the way about the relationship that it has been reported as consensual, primarily? Were there other women? Where did this relationship unfold and take place? Was Ime Udoka warned in any way by his bosses that this, for whatever reason, and there, again, there's a range of reasons, that this was a bad idea? Because, Tony, this feels to me in the end like a really hard thing to come back from if you're the head coach of this team and you're gone, presumably, for a full year.
Yeah. I have a large amount of questions as well. I heard about this morning. I watched SportsCenter. And I saw it, and then I began to try to read about it. And one of the early stories that I read, Pablo, said there is no indication at all that Udoka will lose his job. And I just thought to myself, well, wait a second. I mean, if this is a violation of organizational policy, presumably he would have known it was a violation. Why wouldn't it be possible for him to lose his job? Many other people in other business organizations have lost their jobs for something similar. Mostly I feel about this is a very hard story for me to deal with because, as you say, we don't really know anything.
No.
It's still a fog out there. We don't know anything. But let me say, my position for the record would be that I certainly understand why someone in a position of power, a coach, a general manager, an owner, should not be involved with a staff person on a lower rung. Because the question is always going to be, did the staff person on a lower rung get coerced into doing something? Now, we are told that it is consensual. It's the power relationship. We're told that it's consensual. There have been a lot of famous people in the last few years who've been involved in this, and they are out. They're out of their jobs. And I'm a little bit embarrassed to say what I'm going to say now because I'm going to talk about the basketball implications, but this is a sports show. He's the head coach of a team. In his first year, he took them to the NBA Finals.
That's right.
Obviously a really good coach. This is going to have enormous impact on this team. Will that in any way, Pablo, influence the final decision on what the suspension would be?
Right. And is Brad Stevens then, who is the guy making some of these calls, presumably alongside ownership, does he come and coach? I mean, the sports side of it is a giant basket of real sports questions, but you mentioned the one that I'm concerned about the most, right? How does consent work with a subordinate, with power? You know, it's a giant mess, Tony.